close by. So, 3 Letters to Pine River is also the story of a young fellow who gets involved in all of these events, and very reluctantly has to be a witness at the trial of the murderer. This is not really a mystery. It's a relating of events as told by the narrator. My first published novel, my first book is a collection of short stories, which also deals with life in Shannon. Some of the stories, at least. This book, in a prologue and also in an epilogue, also deals with the expropriation of most of the territory of this farming area in 1965, which was the second expropriation. The first expropriation was in 1914, the purpose of which was to expand the training grounds of the Valcarce military camp. We're talking about 40 square miles of land here. This expropriation was rather tragic in an economic sense for the farmers. They were compensated by the government when expelled, compensated very minimally for their land and holdings. Had this expropriation not taken place, the real estate value of these farms would have risen exponentially. There is considerable urban sprawl now in some of the properties nearby which are not expropriated. And this has given good financial returns to the owners of the land. There was much debate about this topic in the House of Commons in 1966. But the opposition in Parliament, led by none other than John Diefenbaker, could not convince the Liberal government in power that this expropriation was unjust to the farmers who had owned and tilled this land since the early 1800s. So the expropriation was only fractionally reversed. I just want to read a little part of this here. Michael Farragon, who's Michael Farrell, and Paddy Connors is the name I've given to the man who was murdered, his name was Frank Conway. He was my grandmother's brother. But try to imagine this all happening in the 1950s. They were fellow residents in the back ranges of Pine River. These families had known each other for ages. Michael Farragon had married Paddy's second cousin, Margaret Gaffney. There was a healthy respect between these two men, although Paddy did consider Michael Farragon to be a brooding individual who had had trouble with the law before the war. He had killed David O'Meara with an axe on a frigid winter evening in 1934. This incident had occurred many years before, and although everyone in Pine River knew of its history, few held any grudge against Michael Farragon. Certainly, the O'Meara clan preferred to think of it as just a sad event to be kept on the back burner. Paddy would meet Michael Farragon at council meetings on the occasional dance on a summer Saturday night, a regular event that both sometimes attended. The weekly dance was held in a festive atmosphere with lots of farmers milling outside the dance hall and discussing politics or the business of getting out the lumber and vegetable produce to buyers in the surrounding towns. The fiddle and accordion music from inside the hall would prompt more than a few to join the ladies, who usually went right into the dance hall upon arrival. Some of the younger men tended to stay outside, sitting around and exploring the possibilities of drink. It was on one of these Saturday nights that the once abiding relationship between Paddy Connors and Michael Farragon would forever be altered. From what I have been told by my father, and from what was revealed during the trial of Michael Farragon, the quarrel between the two men started out rather harmlessly, with both men talking about the needed repairs to the village schoolhouse and how the work should be organized. There were several farmers gathered, some adding their input to the discussion. Most of the men were holding bottles of beer and swigging, some on their second and third bottle. There was an easygoing spirit to the discussion, with much willingness to contribute to the forthcoming school project. What started out as a friendly discussion soon reverted to a one-on-one verbal exchange between Paddy Connors and Michael Farragon, according to the bystanders. "By the way, Mike," Paddy said, in an off-the-cuff manner, "your boy Joey has been bothering my little girl at school. I wonder if you'd have a talk with him." "Oh yes, and just what happened?" queried Michael Farragon. "Oh, it's nothing big. My wife Ellie says he's been pulling her hair, you know, her pigtails." "Come on, Paddy, you don't want me to get excited about that, do you? What are we, old women?" "It's not a question of getting excited. I just want you to have a word with him, that's all." "Which one of your girls, Paddy?" "Oh, it's Marianne. She's 9 years old." "Holy Christ, Paddy. So my 11-year-old kid is pulling your 9-year-old's pigtails. Why should we worry about that?" Apparently, he laughed at his own comments and looked at the others for affirmation. Paddy Connors did not appear to be amused. He stared at Michael Farragon, a serious look in his eyes. "Mike, you know how sensitive little girls are. Marianne says it's gone on for a while now and it's bothering her." "Look at Paddy," Michael Farragon said. "I've got 9 kids at home. If you think I'm going to take this seriously, forget it. Let the kids do what they do. Let them work it out." "Well, I think a responsible father would take it seriously," said Paddy. "I'm just asking you to tell him to stop doing it." "I'm not going to mention it, Paddy. I've got better things to do with my time." Michael Farragon then turned to walk away from the conversation and took several steps toward the dance hall. "I'm going to have to talk to Maggie about it," Paddy said loudly to Michael Farragon. Michael Farragon turned around and came back toward Paddy. "Don't you mention a word to my wife. She doesn't have to know about everything that takes place in the schoolyard," he said, his voice raised. He approached Paddy to within inches of his face and glowered at him. Paddy raised his hands and shoved him away, pushing against his chest. It was then that the others moved between the two burly farmers and strained to separate them from each other. The group of men included Earl Connors, Paddy's younger brother. There were no punches thrown, no grappling attempted, but the glaring looks they gave each other indicated that a physical scuffle had been narrowly avoided.